right, Brand. I promised you this, and I gotta be honest with you. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to deliver. She's got a boyfriend that I know, and I don't know if he was going to allow this to happen. I don't know if he was going to trust me. I didn't know what the situation was going to be. Thank God I got his blessing. Thank God I got her blessing. She is here with us now, and she is about to light up your computer screen. Mr. Chris Cash, will you please throw up the lovely Velvet Sky?
Hi
There she is.
guys. Vince, you're
Velvet,
so kind.
Velvet, are you a Yankee fan? Or are you wearing a Yankee fan because of the other guy, the
No,
Yankee shirt?
please. He's wearing the Yankee because of me. No,
Oh,
I'm a
I
Yankee
like
fan.
that.
I am a Yankee fan.
Which basically tells me you wear the pants in a relationship. That's another story for another time.
Don't
But
tell him
Velvet,
I
when
said
we
that though.
left off, we established the beautiful people. We established the locker room. Now, Velvet, I want to jump ahead to, I believe it was it 2000 and what year did you get your first singles knockout championship?
Oh, was it
2009?
Bound for Glory
I know it was October 16th.
2011?
I think 2009-ish.
Maybe it was 2000. I thought it was maybe 2000. No, 2011? No? Maybe
I,
2009.
I don't know why I
Sorry.
don't have that right down, but that's not important. Let me ask you
Okay.
this now. So now you have all this success as the beautiful people. And Velvet, I got to tell you this. Listen, I think this really applies not only for the women and for the men as well. Velvet, when I book wrestling, when I watch wrestling, Velvet, I'm not going after that smart wrestling crowd because I knew the smart wrestling crowd that loves wrestling. They're gonna watch the show as long as
Right.
the name wrestling is somewhere in the show. So I knew they were gonna watch. I knew they were always gonna be there, no matter how good or bad the product is. My job was to go after the masses, the
Right.
casual wrestling
Right.
fans,
Right.
the people that aren't obsessed with it, and the people that are going to watch it if it's a good television show.
Right.
So that's why with me, you didn't have to be the best wrestler in the world. You had to be entertaining, you had to be able
Entertaining.
to talk, you had to be, appealing to the eye, you had to have a good character. All those traits that people see in characters when they watch television. Now, I will
Absolutely.
say this, no doubt, match by match by match, I could see you improve in the ring, and that's a credit to you and your craft, and you
Hmm.
kept learning with each and every match.
Hmm.
But when it came to television, to me, Velvet, you were the ultimate package. You were a girl that can work. You were a girl that I believed was a wrestler because we would see that mean streak come through in
Hmm.
the ring.
Hmm.
Obviously, you have the beauty, the way you carry yourself. So you had all the tools needed, in my mind, without a shadow of a doubt, to be the knockout champion. But
Thank
now,
you.
Velvet, I have to ask you this. You had a great amount of success with Angelina, with Madison Rain as well. Let's not
Hmm.
forget Madison, with the beautiful people. Now, all of a sudden, not only are you out there on your own, but now you're out there as the Knockouts champion. Now,
Hmm.
Velvet, listen, I understand it's only a belt and we write the story, but
Right.
let's face it, that's what everybody strives for because that does indicate that you're the best at what you do. So that's what you guys strive for. But during that time, was there any added pressure? I mean, do you feel that, listen, as much as, Vince scripted this and I'm the champion, and, as much as all that is what it is, did you feel any added pressure in carrying that belt and in carrying that position as being, the knockout on the TNA roster?
Absolutely. Especially because we had, the likes of Gail Kim and Hamada and Kong. So I felt like there were, you know, more deserving knockouts on the roster to have the title. But I knew the company believed in me. So it was added pressure. And let's face it, I'm not the most technically sound wrestler in the ring, but I know my spot. I know that I'm entertaining. I know I have a following. And I always was able, especially as a baby face, I was always able to make that connection to the crowd. And, with those things, I mean, I felt like I took those things and ran with them as Knockouts champion. And those are the things that kind of helped me through those times. But absolutely, there was added pressure. Absolutely. As champion, you are expected to carry the division and, that's it, carry the division. And it's, like I said, a lot of pressure.
Hey, Velvet, I want you to honestly answer this question to me to the best of your ability.
Okay.
Velvet, when I'm the writer of the show, you know, at the end of the day, what I'm getting paid for is to bring in ratings, to bring in as many eyeballs as I can to watch the product. The more people watching the product, the more people will go to house shows, the more people will buy
Right.
merch. It's a trickle advertisers, it's a trickle down effect. So the key is to get as many people to watch the show as possible.
Right.
I was always a stickler for the numbers, Velvet. That's all I cared about. The rating on Monday, that would measure the success of TNA and
Right.
where we were at. As a student of the numbers, every time you put the knockouts in the ring, they would draw a number, many
Mm.
times the highest number on the show. Now, when I saw this trend and I saw this happening, and I used to say it all the time, the girls are money in the bank. You know they're going to deliver. You know they're going to do a number. They're money in the bank. There was a time maybe for about 3 months there when I actually was booking on my own. Jeff had left and Eric had not come in yet, and it was just me and Conway. And because of the numbers, I was literally putting in 2 knockout
Mm.
matches on every show.
Yep.
Listen, I said this all along. If it's a monkey eating a banana in the middle of the ring and he's drawing a rating, guess what?
Keep
The
doing it.
monkey is going to be in the middle
Yeah.
of that ring every week eating his banana. It's
Yep.
that simple. But
Yep.
Velvet, I always knew from my perspective, especially, that then Hogan and Eric came involved, and it was the same with Jeff, and it had nothing to do with those individuals. It's
Right.
not a slight at those individuals. It's the mentality of, of,
Right.
of the wrestling business
Right.
from
Right.
the inside. It was always a fight for me, and it was always a struggle for me to just have to be a broken record. They're drawing a number. They're
Right.
drawing a number. They're drawing a number. I have to ask you from the knockout perspective, knowing you guys were delivering ratings and knowing you guys, were drawing a number every time we put you out there, how do you guys take it as a whole and in the locker room when, let's face it, Velvet, for whatever reason, the fight is that your females, in a man
Right.
orientated business, and you may be drawing more than the guys, which they don't like,
Right.
as a matter of fact. But I know as a guy, I used to deal with all this crap, and it was war after war after war, and all I used to say is, look at the numbers. How did you guys deal with that aspect of the business, mainly because it is a man's world?
Well, we thought it was awesome. The girls, I mean, not only is the Knockouts division brand new, now it's doing some of the highest ratings each week on the show. The girls, we were all super excited, but we also kept that in check too. We made sure to still give respect to the other guys. We wouldn't boast or brag about it. We can boast or brag about it in general, but we especially wouldn't talk about it, in front of the guys. We just kind of would, we'd go in the locker room. Oh, did you hear? Did you hear? How exciting! The people love us. The people love the knockouts. But in a way, it was kind of weird too, because like you said, you're a bunch of chicks on a male-dominated, business show, and you're outdrawing the men, and it's like, well, you have to think who's who's watching, that is giving the knockouts the highest rating. You've rated, segments of the show. It's a male audience watching as well. So now, the fans that had been watching TNA from the first day it aired on TV, where it didn't have a knockouts division, this is a brand new thing to them as an alternative to the Divas division. And the knockouts, we were just so hard hitting, and there was no fluff with us. I mean, we had so many girls in the division when it first started. We had girls of all different heights and hair colors and races and shapes and sizes. There was someone for everybody. It wasn't just like cookie cutter, blonde, big boob, dime a dozen type of girls. There was someone in that division for everybody. There was a girl that, every fan can relate to. So everybody had a favorite. And I think that is what ultimately attracted so many people to watching the girls, because, and especially like you said, when you started having, two or more girl segments or matches on the show, I mean, that was basically giving the audience what they wanted, because if the girls are drawing the numbers, then the girls are who people want to see. So why not give them more, which is exactly what you did. And that's exactly why the girls were able to keep garnering those numbers each week, because you gave the people what they wanted to see. But for us, it was super humbling, because we never thought, like, again, we're a brand new division full of girls. We never thought like we were going to be the show stealers, but we were for a while, and it still is pretty cool.
Hey, Velvet, I want to ask you this because this is, listen, man, when, I take a lot of shots to this day, people have their criticisms and their critiques about me and this and that, and they go on and on and on. Here's the one that hurts me the most. And I want to have this conversation with you, just as an absolute shoot. And as a woman, I want to see where you sit with this. And as a matter of fact, it just got brought up this past week again when I wrote about you on my site. And I think I said a couple of things about you, on my last edition of the Swerve.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what I said was this. I said, listen, as far as TNA and your current situation, your contract, which we'll get into in a minute, I said,
Mm-hmm.
listen, as far as I'm concerned, Velvet Sky should be on the freaking TNA roster just so the male demo, who was always the main demo in wrestling, who will always be the main demo in wrestling, no matter what people want to believe, or no matter how they want to alter it. The main demo in wrestling is going to be 18 to 34-year-old males. And
Mm-hmm.
guess what? They're not going to be diehard wrestling fans. They're going to be regular guys hanging out in dorm rooms as colleges, who happen to be entertained by wrestling and want to see attractive girls. So
Mm-hmm.
my point was, if I'm TNA and I know that 18 to 34-year-old male is invaluable, I'm going to pay Velvet just so they can look at her every week. It's that simple. Just so they can get their Velvet every week and look at her, right? So, of course, somebody writes me a letter that I'm looking at Velvet. I'm treating Velvet like an object. And I'm looking at Velvet like an object. And I said, no, let me correct you. I said, I am looking at Velvet as a beautiful woman that God created. I have no problem whatsoever saying that Velvet is a beautiful, gorgeous woman. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think Velvet would have a problem with me saying that at all. Now, Velvet, the reason why I can have this conversation with you is this is an absolute shoot, Velvet. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know too much about my background, but I'll just tell you real briefly. Velvet, I've been married for 31 years. Never had an affair on my wife, never came close to cheating on my wife, and I worked around some beautiful, beautiful women. When I worked with, the girls at the WWE, WCW, and especially the Knockouts, I swear, to me, first and foremost, I looked at these girls like they were my daughters. I mean, I never looked at you guys, lustfully or
No.
in that way. I mean, never, ever, ever. And I think I always had the utmost respect and treated you guys that way. I mean, always, always. I don't ever question that. But here's the thing, Velvet, and this is where I get criticized sometimes and it hurts me. I saw firsthand how you girls worked on your bodies
Mm.
and how you just the time put in to the presentation of the knockouts looking the way that they did. And
Hmm.
I knew that you took great pride in your appearance, in your looks, and in your bodies. And I also knew that by, and I tell people this all the time. What do you think Vince Russo told the knockouts what to wear to the ring? The
Hmm.
knockouts had their own clothing put together, whatever it was, they designed their own stuff and they went out there. And the way I saw it, they had beautifully created bodies by God that they worked very hard on because it was their livelihood. I don't think they had an issue in showing the people their works of art.
Hmm.
So I never in my wildest dreams looked at female wrestlers as exploiting women in the wrestling business. And
Mm-mm.
bro, I don't know, Velvet, maybe I'm being so naive, but as somebody that was a wrestler, and let's face it, Velvet, I know you got the calendar now. I mean, I've seen you got the calendar, and I mean, you were the pinup girl in TNA without a shadow of a doubt. Did you ever feel like that way? Did you ever feel like you were looked like as an object and just put out there for guys to? I mean, did you ever feel that way at all? And I want you to be totally honest because those are the shots that people take at me, and I really take offense to that because I never looked at it that way.
No, and me and all of the knockouts, and I know all of them would agree with me. Each one that has come and gone would agree with me when I say this. You absolutely were not in any way, shape, or form creepy or perverted, or, half the time, if you would walk by the girls, you'd be so busy in your work or talking to one of the other writers, you wouldn't even know we were there, and you just kind of not ignore us, but kind of just go right by us, go about your business. Not you were never flirty, or I never got that creeper vibe from you at all. And I think you said it well when you said you just treated all the girls like they were your daughters, like you would treat your daughter, and that's the vibe that me and all of the girls had from you, because all the girls loved you, and it's because you weren't creepy, and we thank you for that, but that's just not who you are. And as far as being put out there, like me being like the poster girl of the company, like you said, no, I never felt like I was like being put out there as an object. I was just, the company had faith in me. The company, I was just the girl whose face they would put on posters and merchandise to try to get, people to buy it and people to come to the shows. Like, there's nothing wrong with being a poster girl or a poster guy or poster anything for a company that you work for,
Yeah, I mean,
and
Velvet,
it's like,
my mentality, again, I know how hard you girls worked in the weight
yeah,
room. I know it. I saw it. I know how hard you girls dieted. And my whole thing was if I was a girl and I had Velvet's body, you bet I'm gonna flaunt it because I worked darn hard for this thing, and it's no different than a guy. If I had Robbie E's body, I'd be doing this interview without a shirt right now. To me, when you work that hard at something and that's your livelihood, to me, the last thing in the world you should be is covering that up.
right, especially if you were in the role that Angelina and I were in. We were the beautiful people. You know what I mean? We had to, look a certain way, act a certain way, not because we were forced or told to, because we knew that was the character we were portraying, And not once did I ever feel like, oh, this skirt, I shouldn't wear it. It's too short. I don't want to show my stomach. I don't want to show my legs. Or I never felt pressured into anything. And as far as the wrestling gear goes, yes, the girls have free range to pick out and design whatever outfits they want to wear on the show. So
Hey, Velvet,
I
I
don't know
want
where
to
this
ask
comes
you this
from.
question because I'm going to ask you a couple of little personal questions now, but I don't think you'll mind. But I like getting, I can't ask the guy, I can't ask Al Snow this question or,
Okay.
anybody else that King Kong Bundy, I can't ask this question. I could ask you this question.
Okay.
A couple of things I want to ask you a little bit more on a personal note. Now, Velvet, again, we just talked about this in the last interview, how, you said this is me and how down to earth you are and how just incredibly nice that you are. And Velvet, I don't know if you remember this, and you probably do, but I remember we were at the ale house one night, and
Mhm.
literally, Velvet, there was this guy there that like I think like swam across the Pacific Ocean to meet you. And he's talking to me about you and he's going on and like I'm saying, okay, this guy's possessed with velvet, right? And in you walk, and I'm like, okay, here we go, right? And I'm not taking my eyes off this guy because I know how you are. And
Right.
I know Velvet's gonna talk to this guy and talk to this guy and talk to this guy, and I'm gonna have to get this guy away from her. Well, sure enough, the guy approached you, and you're talking to this guy like you've known him for the last 20 years. And now, like, I'm really starting to get concerned because, like, I'm almost starting to feel like you're being stalked.
Mm.
That's how I'm feeling. You know, when I talk about the father figure, that's how
Yeah.
I'm feeling at this
Yeah.
point. Now, Velvet, I have to ask you this though. Being the person that you are, with the heart that you have, how did you handle situations like that? Because I'm sure there were many times when fans like that may have crossed the line and where you really may have felt a little uncomfortable. How did you handle situations like that, just being the open person that you are?
Well, first of all, when you're in the public's eye, you have to, and you're going to a public place where wrestling fans might be, then you kind of have to be ready for anybody to just walk up to you and talk to you and ask you a million questions and take pictures with you. For me, it was never an act that I was putting on, and it was never hard to do that because I feel like, I mean, the fans are such a huge part of my success because it's because of them and them voicing their like for me and them voicing their like to want to see me more and, buy my merchandise and, buy a ticket to come see maybe where I'm going to be at. I mean, those are the people that I have to thank, most of all, for making Velvet Sky who she is, because those people didn't have to like me. They didn't have to be fans of me. They don't have to be loyal followers. They choose to. And I always keep that in my mind when I know I'm going to meet fans because let's face it, I'm not always, feeling up to, pictures and autographs and small talk when I go out, but you kind of have to turn that off and just, well, I turn it off anyways because no matter if something is bothering me, I don't let that interfere in my interaction with a wrestling fan, because to me it might just be another fan that wants my autograph, but to them it's like, especially if you're their favorite wrestler or they're meeting you for the first time and they've idolized you and they've dreamt about meeting you all this time, you don't want their memory of you to be on your off day where you were having a shitty day and, you treated them like they were nothing, when to them, this meeting with you is the best thing that's ever happened in their lives. I keep that in my mind because like I said, I know how loyal my fans are, and I would never let anything going on in my life at the time that may be negative affect any fan interaction that I have. I love meeting my fans. I absolutely love them. They make me who I am. They support me throughout everything. Without the fans, there is no Velvet Sky. So, and I know that, and that's something that I will always keep with me in my mind, and I will never get too big for my britches ever, no matter where I go or what I do. the fans are number one with me, and that's just the way it's always been. I try to make them feel like, they're of equal value to me and everybody else, and they're not the lessers. And that's just the way I've always been with
See,
fans, and that's the way I'll always
Novell,
be.
maybe it's just like the overprotectiveness of me. And like I said, I myself have a 19-year-old daughter. Velvet, I spent a lot of time on the road, and I know how hard it was for me. And I'm not one of the boys. I was just on the road because that was my job. But I know how difficult it was for me.
Hmm.
And I can't imagine, just life on the road as a female wrestler. I mean, the emotions of a female, run higher, than a male. And I myself, missed my family, missed really being around the people that were close to me, and, checking in and out of hotels on a daily
Hmm.
basis in a different town. And especially with the knockouts, not knowing if somebody's following you, if they're not. And a lot of times you're alone. And I guess the word is, even as a guy, you're very vulnerable just being out at the road and being in unfamiliar environment. And I don't know, I always worried about that when it came to the girls in the business. But would you say then that it probably wasn't much different than being a guy in the business on the road?
Well, I'll speak for myself when I say I don't mind. Like, when I was on the road, I did travel with the girls and some of the guys. Like, I always was traveling with someone, but there were a lot of times when I was on the road where I would just get a car and get a hotel and drive and stay by myself for the weekend. And that was totally 100% okay with me. I don't mind being by myself. I just have, I know how to get around. I know I'll never get lost. If I don't know where I am, I can always just find my way back to, where I'm supposed to go. I was never worried and scared to be out there by myself. And, I don't know. I was just never someone that was like, oh my God, well, what if I get lost? What if I can't find it? I'll be alone. What will I do then? I'm not one of the, your typical,
Yeah.
I'm not your typical chick. I'm just really not. Like, I get stuff done. I get it done on my own sometimes. And sometimes I just prefer to be by myself. I don't mind traveling alone sometimes. You drive on the road, you got a long drive, you clear your head, you're alone, there's no one to entertain. Or sometimes I just really didn't mind driving and staying alone.
Velvet, I want to ask you this question, and it's a little personal, but I'm going to tell you like why I'm asking it. Because I want
Okay.
to get your answer on this. Velvet, I've been in the wrestling business now for 23 years, and like
Hmm.
I am very antisocial. And my wife gets on me about that all the time. I never go to her work functions. I don't know any of her friends. We're not doing couples dating. I'm not doing anything like that. And here's the main reason why, Velvet, because listen, you know what the wrestling business is. It's a very unique business. Not many people get to do it. And when I'm around people on the outside, and it's what do you do for a living? Oh well, I wrote
Uh,
wrestling for 23 years. Well,
yeah,
well, here we go now.
yeah, yeah,
Now I'm sitting there for the entire night, and
yeah.
I'm listening to I saw Andre and Hulk at WrestleMania 3, and my grandmother saw Bobo Brazil, and like that's my whole night. Freaking
Yeah,
wrestling.
yeah.
And that's why I don't like to be around people because I don't want to have that conversation every day.
I agree.
I,
Sometimes I don't either. And that's not even to be mean. It's just like it's mentally exhausting. And it
That's why
sounds
I want to ask
crazy.
you this next question, and I asked
Okay.
Angelina the same question. Now
Okay.
here's the deal, Velvet. When you look at Hollywood stars, right?
Hmm.
You always hear them say, "I'm not going to date an actor. I don't want to go out with anybody in the movie business. I don't want to." And the next thing it's Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Right.
They can't help themselves.
Right.
The actors and the actresses, same in the music business, they're always drawn to each other. Uh, I guess because they have a similar background and there's a lot in common. Now I know you've dated some wrestlers in the past. You're dating one now, and we'll talk about him in a second. Is is it easier for you, Velvet, because they're from your world and they understand you and they understand what you're going through and why you may always be preoccupied because I'm
Yeah.
thinking about wrestling or I'm thinking about this. Is it that, or is it that it's hard for somebody like you who is entrenched in the business to even relate to somebody outside of it? Or is it a combination of the both?
No, I think it's just easier. I mean, like you said, the actors and the actresses date and the musicians date, and it's the same in the wrestling industry. It's like a lot of the times you meet your significant other, your boyfriend, your girlfriend at work, at the office, because they're people that you're around so much. You know, half of your life is spent, at work. So those are just people that you see every day. So, I mean, for me, it's easier to date within the business just because, like you said, and I'm sure a lot of people that are together in the wrestling business would agree with me. It's just that they understand what you're going through. They understand your lifestyle because they're living it too. So there's never any like, what are you doing? Like, are you really at a show? Are you really doing this? Or are you around a lot of wrestlers? Do they hit on you? There's none of that, annoying, nagging questions or speculations that go on when two wrestlers. I mean, I'm sure there is, but I mean, it's a lot easier when to date within the industry because, like I said, they already know what you're going through. They live the life that you live. They have the same lifestyle. They know the same group of people that you know. So it just makes things a lot easier. And as far as like, dating, having a normal guy at home waiting, and you're explaining to him why you have to go on the road again and you're going to miss his birthday party or whatever the case may be, like sure he'll understand, but nobody would understand, especially picking up and leaving at the last second like another wrestler would. Like we understand each other's lifestyle. So it makes it easier to just to date and to be together.
I want to hit on that for a second, exactly what you just said, Velvet, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I say this all the time, and Bubba will hate me saying this because I'll kill his gimmick, but I'm an Italian guy and I
Yeah.
wear my Italian on my sleeve. You know, I think all Italians do. He's an Italian guy, and the one thing with me is through it all, especially in the wrestling business, man, you know who the people are that are full of crap, and you know who the people are that you can look directly into their hearts and know who they are despite all the other BS. That's why when I first learned about you and I first learned about Bully, it was no surprise to me. I know you both individually and I know your hearts. And I have to tell people this all the time because so many people tell me when they meet Bill, when they meet Bubba, how he's rude and he was mean to me and he was this and he was that. And for as many times as I have to kill his gimmick, I have to explain to people, you don't understand. He's playing his gimmick. He
Yeah,
wants you
exactly.
to believe that's who he is. The guy is a pussycat. The guy is a teddy bear. The guy has the biggest heart on the face of the planet. And I always got to kill the guy's gimmick. But
Yeah.
I want to ask you this. When you talk about like the psychology of a wrestler, right, Velvet? And now
Hmm.
that, you and Bubba are dating, what is it about like the psychology of a wrestler that Bubba would immediately be able to tune into your head and know about and understand that somebody from the outside world would never have a clue?
I mean, it's both personal and business. I mean, he's a very wise man, and he does have a huge heart, like you said, which a lot of people don't know that side of him. That's okay; they're not supposed to know that side of him, you know. But he helps me so much just throughout just everyday problems to maybe problems or questions that I'll have in the business where he's older and wiser and he's a veteran of the business, to which my career is all, I'm in the business as well. So for me to be able to lean on someone like him and pick his brain and just ask him for advice, and he always gives me the best advice possible. Sometimes there are questions about this business and about my, my job, that I really don't know who to turn to for answers. So having someone like him with all the answers, like he always does, and I mean that in a genuine way, not a smart ass way. Like he helps me so much. Um, he's just someone, that I am blessed to have in my life, as opposed to, let's say, someone that isn't in the business that I may be dating, that I can't turn to with questions or fears or problems that I may have, because they don't know the business and they have no answers. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes on. It takes a lot to be a pro wrestler. It takes a lot mentally, it takes a lot physically. And I feel like everybody, whether it's a friend or a boyfriend or a girlfriend in this business, I feel like everybody needs a rock, because this business does get tough and it will wear you down, you know, and you need to have someone just as strong as you, or if not stronger, there for you to kind of put things into perspective for you and offer you up the best advice possible. And he is that to me. Whereas there's nothing wrong with a dating a guy that's not in the business, but um, they wouldn't be able to offer the same kind of advice and perspective on things about the business that someone like Bubba, who is in the business, does. And I'm just very grateful and appreciative for that, because I need lots of advice here and there about just life and about the business that I'm in. And he's just my answer to everything, and I'm just grateful that I have that, because I need that. Everybody needs that.
Now, Velvet, has he cooked a lot of homemade Italian meals for you?
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, last night he made homemade chicken parm, meatballs, and spaghetti,
I
Italian
now
bread,
have
the
to
whole
ask you this
nine.
question, and you can deny this, but I have a picture in my head when
Okay.
he's cooking you these meals, which I'm sure are phenomenal. He took me once, and I'm sure you probably been there too, to his uncle's restaurant out on Long
Yeah, I was
Island.
there. Yep.
Oh, forget
Yeah.
about it, right?
So
But
forget about it. Yeah.
when he's cooking these meals for you, does like he tie on a little apron? Is he wearing an
No, he
apron?
doesn't. He doesn't, but I should
I'm
make him.
I'm gonna think he wears an apron. I just have that vision in my head and I want to believe it. Velvet, listen, I want to talk about a TNA for a second. And Velvet, listen, I'm not gonna ask you anything you're gonna be uncomfortable. I'm not gonna say anything mean spirited. I don't care about that. I just I wanted to talk to you on this interview because I think so much of you. But I have to ask you this, or else I wouldn't be doing my job if I don't ask you. Velvet, so like while I'm writing this stuff, I guess there was a big part of me that really wanted to believe two things. Number one, I wanted to believe it wasn't work. I wanted to believe that you were still with the company. And number two, for all the business reasons in the world, there was the part of me that had to believe you're still with the company. So, like, while I'm writing these articles about you, which I really feel and I really meant, there's a part of me that I got to protect myself because maybe she's still with the company and I don't want to, I don't want to look like an idiot. So, I just have to ask you, and if you can't answer, you can't answer. That is okay. Has your contract expired with TNA? And as of today, are you no longer with the company or can't you comment on that?
Well, I mean, I can comment on it because it's out there already anyways. It's nothing that I put out there. I honestly don't know how things like this get out there, but yes, my contract is up. And the feast fired. I was fired in the match, so that's it.
Velvet,
Voila.
can we talk for a second?
Bada
And Velvet,
bing.
this isn't to rip anybody. It really isn't. I want to talk to you because let me tell you what's really bothering me because I've seen this now with TNA, and this is strictly business, Velvet. This ain't about any person there. I'm talking to you business 101. This is what drives me crazy. I've seen three situations over the last year. Okay. I've seen AJ Styles, I've seen Bubba, and I've seen you. Now, from a business perspective, from a creative perspective, this is what drives me crazy. And this is where I really was starting to convince myself this is a work and it can't be true. Okay. In the case of AJ, here was a guy that was a homegrown TNA talent, started TNA. If you would think about anybody when it came to TNA, you thought about AJ Styles. If they had
Right.
a legitimate homegrown talent, it was AJ. Not only that, I was consulting at the end. His work, not in ring work, character work,
Mhm.
storytelling was at an all time high, the best I had ever seen it. Okay. And I'm sure it was an issue of dollars and cents. AJ Styles isn't signed. And like I said, I think the most important thing is he had the face of the homegrown talent that I think is worth the money to sign him alone. Then you had a case with Bubba, and I was there. The ultimate, forget about the character, forget about the ring, forget about the money promos, forget about all that. The locker room leader, the guy that you want in your locker room, because keeping a locker room in line is so important to the wrestling business. Add to that the fact that there's so much young talent there that has so much to learn. And aside from Kurt Angle, there's really nobody that can teach them. Bubba was that guy, not to mention agenting, laying out matches, this and that. Then I look at Velvet. And this is why, like, from a business 101, I'm like, no, it doesn't add up to me. Number one, if AJ was the male face of TNA, you were far and away the female face of
Mhm.
TNA. You were the girl that came up from the bottom up to champion. They groomed you. You got better and better at your craft. The merchandise that they sell off of Velvet Sky. We talked about the calendars and all that, but I
Mhm.
said the most important thing, because I know you, and I put it in my column. Velvet Sky is a public relations dream for TNA. You dream of people like this that look the way you do and embrace the company and will go out and do whatever they ask you to do. An
Mhm.
appearance here, an appearance there. Just good press and PR for the company, which is so important. And I look at those cases, and I know, listen, Velvet, I know when it comes down to it, it's dollars and cents, and I understand all that. But there are some things I think with a company that are just invaluable. And when you let things like that get away, I think you're leaving such a gaping hole. And it's not, we're gonna replace Velvet with another body, or we're gonna replace Bubba with another body, or AJ. You can't just replace these people with other bodies because of what they brought to the table as a whole. And here's the part I really don't get from a creative perspective, Velvet. They had 7, 8 years invested in your character. We've
Mhm.
invested 8 years in Velvet Sky, the beautiful people. She was the champion. We've invested this time in our employee. And I guess it's things like that where I get frustrated with TNA, because it's not all about dollars and cents. To me, it's all about human beings
Mhm.
and who you want working for you. And that's why I was thinking that this has to be a work. How she's so valuable in so many areas. I just want to hear your thoughts on that, because I don't know, Velvet. Maybe I like I said, I'm Italian. Maybe I got a soft heart. Maybe I can't just think strictly business. But the three of you guys brought so much to the table. You can't replace that.
Well, I appreciate that, you saying that. Thank you. And I'm not mad at TNA for any decision they've made as far as the way how I'm booked. Um, as far as what they're thinking right now with me, honestly, I'm not sure. But I know the door is open for me to return in the future if it worked out. But I mean, I, I enjoyed doing any and all of the media and the fan interactions that, TNA had me do. And I know they had me do it because one of the reasons, they know how personable I am with the fans and the people, and they knew they could count on me to send me out and make a good impression for the company, and I was always happy to do it. So, yeah, I have been there for 8 years, and why they decided to have me go out the way they did, I mean, I'll never know. I mean, the same people that, hired me and kind of got me through a good portion of my career are no longer there. So I just feel like it all has to do on taste and creative decision and who it is that they want to use and who it is they want to push at the time. And maybe for now, I'm just not the person that they want to push at the time, and that's totally fine with me. I mean, I have nothing bad to say about them. Like I said, Velvet Sky has always and will always be comfortable in her spot and in her role because I know what I've accomplished. I know what I have yet to accomplish, and I know the following I have. I have a huge following, loyal following of people that are basically ready to go wherever it is I go, and see what it is that I do next. So
Well,
there are a lot.
I want to ask you about that because you are, listen, honestly, as disappointed and frustrated I get with that company sometimes, and I don't even know why. I shouldn't even care anymore. I don't know why I do, but I do. But with that being said, for your sake, this can actually be a blessing. And I'll tell you why. And I want to get your thoughts on this. First of all, Velvet, you got to understand, I just turned 54 years old. So, like,
Mhm.
I'm a very, very old man. So I have to relegate myself to interviewing Al Snow and King Kong Bundy and doing my podcast and like that's what I'm going to be doing now, which is fun. But listen, don't get me wrong. My age, I'm very limited to opportunity. Okay, you, on the other hand, are at the absolute best point in your career as far as I'm concerned. Not only are you still young, but like you said, things didn't first work out at the WWF because you said, I was young, I needed experience. You went
Right.
and you got that experience. So
Absolutely.
now you're still young and you have a wealth of experience behind you. And like you said, a huge fan following.
Yep.
And I wrote this in my article, and I honestly believe this. I think that Velvet will be able to punch her ticket and do whatever it is she wants to do going forward. And I'm
Thank
just
you.
curious, Velvet, as to what is that? You've made it in wrestling. I mean, you didn't have a career at the WWE, but you were in TNA. You had a great 8 years at TNA.
Yep.
You reached the pinnacle. You reached the tippity top. Are there more things that Velvet wants to do in wrestling? Or now that you've done what you've done, are there other things you're looking at?
Um, yes, I'm very blessed in what I was able to achieve in wrestling. Even if it was on somewhat of a smaller scale, that doesn't matter to me. I was able to make a name for myself, stay relevant, connect with the fans, travel the world, meet interesting people. So, I mean, if I never do another thing in wrestling like that, I wouldn't be heartbroken. But do I still have a lot to give to the wrestling world? I think so. I still have a lot to give no matter what it is, whether it's in the wrestling world or, the acting world. I've got a couple of movie projects under my belt that I've been working on as well. So it's just another area that I've been exploring. And so far, I like what I've done so far with it. So, like I said, whether it's in the wrestling world or another form of the entertainment industry, I still have so much left to give. So I won't be going anywhere for a while. Where I will end up next, you'll have to just wait and see.
Velvet, I know you're a lot younger than me, and I know I date myself all the time, and I really don't care. But you've had to at some point in your life, you've had to watch I Love Lucy, correct?
I used to love that show. Yes.
Velvet, I think you and Bubba could be the Lucy and the Ricky Ricardo of our generation. What do you think about that?
It's so funny because him and I joke all the time about how we're the like the honeymooners. Like, what is it,
Yes,
Alice
yes.
and so it's funny that you compare us to like me to Lucy and the I Love Lucy show because we see ourselves in that type of role.
Well,
And
you
we've
Velvet,
actually
you know
talked
what?
about Frank and Alice,
Yeah,
Ricky
you know
Ricardo and
what's
Lucy.
what's funny, Velvet? I saw the little gimmick thing you guys did with the bucket challenge.
Oh, the Ice Bucket Challenge. Yeah, that was just
This
a
was
taste of
so
what we
like
have.
it's so natural, like with you two. I mean, it just when I watched that, it felt right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Him and I have really good chemistry. I mean, whether it's on film or off film. And ever since, we kind of tested the waters with the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge video, and it seemed to get a really, really good response. And people that didn't even know who we were watching it and somehow reaching out to us to let us know how entertained they were, by the two of us. And the chemistry that we do have is very unique, and it's not forced. It's actual chemistry that I feel, the two of us, Bubba and I together, we could bring a really good force to the table. You got the strong and him and the sexy and me. So, and you mix a little comedy in with that. It is, like you said, it's like Ricky Ricardo and Lucy and like the honeymooners. What is it?
I
Frank and
think
Alice?
you guys. I mean, again,
Ralph and
it's like
Alice. Ralph and
small.
Alice. I'm sorry. Ralph and Alice.
Yeah, it's like small potatoes because I know
Yeah.
you guys. Listen, I know how talented both of you guys are, so I know you can write your own ticket. So like I'm really thinking small potatoes, but God, I would love you two like having a joint podcast or radio show or interview show or something like that with the two different perspectives and the two different personalities, man. I think something like that would be so entertaining.
We do too. Thank you. It's all about making the right connections and meeting the right people. And him and I mean, we've come up with some ideas, recently about, kind of putting ourselves out there in that light, like you said. So, we're working on things now as we speak. But I just think him and I, like somehow, somewhere, if we were to get our like out there and some like the right person were to see our chemistry and how we interact with one another, I mean, I think it's a gold mine waiting to happen. It
I,
is.
I know it is. And Velvet, one last thing, and then I'm going to let you go because you spent so much time with us, and I'm so grateful. But, Velvet, like with the internet wrestling community, and they interview something, and then they got to put on like the sensational headline on the interview, and so they catch the viewers and they get the hits and they get this,
Yeah.
that, and the other thing. They sensationalize everything. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I want to be able to run with this, and I think you've confirmed this through this interview. I just want to double check. I don't want to overstep my bounds. I don't want to get any heat with you or anybody else for that matter. Am I fair to say? Can I float out there now that Bubba makes you Italian dinners and he wears an apron in doing so?
Yes. Yes.
I can float that out there.
He wears my pink lacy apron. Yes.
Oh.
And it says "Kiss the Cook."
Listen, you just put that thought in my mind, Velvet. I think now we got to end this interview because that that
I'll,
that
I'll
that's
I'll
that's
snap a
more than
picture
even
next
me to
time.
handle.
I'll snap a picture next time for you.
Oh my God! How can we get high heels too with that?
He does, yes.
Okay.
They kind of hurt his feet though, because they don't make a lot of women's high heels in size 14. But he does what he can.
Well, there you go.
Toes
We
and
we
hanging
just
out.
gave him the scoop of the century.
Yeah.
Velvet, listen, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me today and for filling us in, letting everybody know where you're at. And listen, I honestly mean this as somebody that knows you and your heart and your talent. I sincerely believe that going forward, you could do whatever it is that you want to do. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that next chapter is.
Thank you. I just want to thank you again, now that we're face to face. Like, thank you for believing in me enough when I first came to TNA to give me the role that you gave me, whether it was in The Beautiful People or whether it was as a singles wrestler. I just want to thank you because you are the one that allowed me to show the world what I could do and what I had to offer. And you are the one that gave me that opportunity when so many other people just kind of like overlooked it. So I have no one to thank more than you.
But
for
Velvet,
for
can I tell you
everything. Thank
something?
you.
I want to tell you something that I told Eric Young. I told Eric Young this once, and I absolutely mean this. And Velvet, listen, you and I both know how tough the wrestling business is. It
Hmm.
is a tough business. But I said this to Eric, and I'm going to say the same thing to you because I saw it time and time and time again. Velvet, you cannot keep talent down. The cream always rises to the top. So whether it was a Vince Russo or whether it was somebody else, that doesn't matter. That was the vehicle. You can't keep talent down. Everything you did, you earned, you worked for, you achieved. It was all you. Just like you're about to go on to this next chapter of your life, it's you and it's who you are. And don't ever forget that.
Well, I have you to thank for giving me the opportunity because although, I may have had it inside me, it took someone believing in me and giving me a chance to, let it surface. And you gave me that chance and you believed in me and you didn't have to because you knew nothing about me at the time, but you saw the potential and, I am forever grateful to you for that. So thank you so much, Vince.
Well, just remember now when you get your first leading lady role, when it's the new adventures of Lucy and Ricky, remember right back here on this show, you come first.
Absolutely. And I hope by then you're working with us.
Oh, God, that'd be great. Well, Velvet, thank you so much. As always, just a joy and a pleasure to talk to you again.
Anytime. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
All right. Thank you, Velvet.